Hi, everyone. It's Michelle Howe. Today we have a very special guest that I am interviewing, and you get the pleasure of listening to and learning from. Her name is Christine Day. A little bit about her. I'm just going to give you this synopsis and then you can meet her. Christine was born and raised in Australia. In 1986, she was diagnosed with an advanced systemic lupus. She was told that she had a few months to live. Christine experienced a profound spiritual awakening with Pleiadians, moving her into remission, and she has been symptom-free since. In 1996, she had a direct encounter with a Pleiadian ship. Through this profound experience, her pre-agreements and mission for this lifetime were revealed. She received an entire download of her unique Pleiadian aspect that created a total transmutation of her entire energetic system. This happening radically transformed her life and has enabled her to transmit a pure love frequency outward to humanity. Christine has become internationally renowned as a Pleiadian ambassador for Earth. She's a spiritual teacher, healer, and channel. Christine has written 3 books: Pleiadian Initiations of Light, Pleiadian Principles for Living, and the Pleiadian Promise. Christine has recently been directed to move to Alice Springs in the deep red center of the outback region of the Northern Territory in Australia. Her role is to hold the energetic platform for the creation of what the Pleiadians referred to as a diamond arc light consciousness that is to originate at a specific predestined point within the land in Alice Springs and link into the galactic receiving station in Grand Marais, Minnesota, in the United States. The arc will be a main branch part of the energetic webbing encircling Earth, connecting to all life force within the planet. That's big, my friends. That's very big. Christine does lots of things. She has a podcast that she releases monthly. She writes a monthly column, The Pleiadian Message. She has live seminars and 90-minute Zoom classes that she holds. She has also a series of other videos and teachings that are all available at her website, www.christinedayonline.com. So without further ado, I am going to bring my lovely guest on today. Hello, Miss Christine.
Hi, Michelle. It's so good to be here with you and with everyone else.
Thank you. It's our pleasure to have you here. I know you and I have been chatting quite a bit offline, so now to just bring all this wonderful magic into a recording where people can access it. And my empaths are going to feel your energy loud and clear. So I'm super excited about this. I guess I would start first with asking you, tell us a little bit about you and your journey, like growing up, leading up to your awakening before you became fully embarked in this spiritual journey that has a life of its own. Tell us about that.
True. Yeah, well, my beginnings were really fairly dramatic, and I was in a cult. My parents gave me to a cult from the age of 2 to 13, so there was tremendous pain and struggle and hopelessness and helplessness through the cult rituals and sexual abuse. So my whole core as a person was shattered at that time. It was really, I was left like an empty shell. And in that time, it was just, from the time I right to 31, I was just like an empty person, like there was no one home. Yes, I got married, I had children, but I was a depressed person. And really each day it was like, I wasn't going to kill myself, wasn't suicidal, but I just wanted to die. It was just like that. That was running right through me. I just wanted to die. And I just used to look at the clock through the day and think, okay, only another few hours of this day left. And that's how I spent every day. So it was a very extreme, I was in an extreme place. And then at 31, I had fallen ill with systemic lupus. And at 31, I found myself in the hospital with the doctors saying I had a few months to live. And, it was like, it was a relief to get that diagnosis.
Wow.
And because it's really what I wanted to do. I just wanted to die because I still had all the pain and the trauma of my childhood inside of me. Nothing resolved. Everything's just stuck down, like blocked out.
So would you say that you didn't have emotions, you were numb to emotions, or how had you dealt with, like, you didn't get angry, you didn't get sad, you just kind of like didn't process, like you stopped?
I was like, yeah, just in a flat line. I flatlined out,
No emotions. Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing, I couldn't tell you one thing that I wanted. I couldn't give you one thing that would make me happy. There was like, if I could think about what could bring me happiness, I didn't have it. I didn't have any belief systems. I wasn't with the church. I wasn't with anything. I didn't even notice nature. It was like I was just there. Numb.
Is it possible that your spirit was not really in your body? Like,
I think my belief system, my feeling of being, I was very much used in the cult as an object. And so when that use stopped, it was like there was nothing left of me. I wasn't being used anymore. And so I was like empty and there was no use for me anymore. It was like I became obsolete in a way. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe I deserved anything. I didn't believe I could have anything. It was
programming. That's all programming. Like, you're not worth this, you're not worth that, you're not, like, that's all programming. Okay.
Tremendous brainwashing.
Wow.
In the cult. So, that leaves you empty. And so when I got that diagnosis, the first thing I did was, it's like a light went on. It's like I've created something to kill myself. And there was excitement in that because It was like, I didn't believe I could do anything and I've created this. Now that was totally intuitively given to me. That was an original thought. And then the next step was, if I could create my own death, I could create my own healing. And that came from somewhere else. So it was like, not at the moment I didn't notice this or take it in, but it was like, it was me getting my power back. Me coming back to the magic of myself. But I didn't see any of that at that time. But all I knew was, in order to live, I had to leave hospital that day and I had to go home. And I didn't know how I was going to, and I had to change something in my life and I didn't know what that was. And of course, I wasn't into any sort of healing, metaphysics, anything, but I knew I had to go home and just sit.
Right.
That decision was me taking back my power for self-healing. But of course, I didn't understand that either. And I didn't know what meditation was. So I went home and I sat. And 2 weeks later, this light, brilliant light, started pouring into me, this love. And that love was so pure. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced. Love. I hadn't experienced love. And it was like this love, and it never stopped. It just kept coming into me. And I just I thought it must be the love of God. And the energy was pouring through my hands as well. And it was just always there. And it was just filling me constantly with that light. And my son, who was very ill at the time, and he had cerebral palsy, I decided to put my hands on him and use this light on him. And I did that every day. And as I put my hands on him, he healed, and so did I. So we went through this healing process, this transmutation, and I became joyful. My depression lifted. I started to get clarity and understanding, like getting information through with this light. And I just transformed. And I made a commitment because I could feel myself going from death to life to follow the guidance of that information, that understanding, that energy from God. And I was committed to that no matter what. That was my only commitment, was to that.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Like, did you immediately trust what this was, or did you ask anybody what this was, or did you go along with it? Like, how did you reason?
I was so isolated. I really didn't have any friendships then. I was very isolated, very homophobic, I mean, not homophobic. I was kind of just staying at home. I couldn't leave the house. I was just very caught up
Yeah.
fear and struggle. So I stayed home as much as possible. So it was with the energy and the essence of this love. And the love was what was there. And it was like a well of light coming in, feeding me, nourishing me, bringing me everything I've never had, waking me up. There was nothing to do but trust that.
And your son was with you at this time too.
Yes, he was, yeah.
And how long do you think it took? Like, did you heal him?
He went from being really severe epileptic with chronic lung problems to no lung problems. The epilepsy disappeared. His cerebral palsy improved. His mobility, he could speak because he wasn't verbalizing at all, not even a sound. So he transformed. I transformed. And that was a 2-year process of just him and I. It was very simple. It was just simple. And the light was so brilliant. And I became more and more filled. And as I said, transformed. I went from being incredibly depressed to joyful. And I started working with other people then and with this energy. And that was
The word that you used, filled, because so much of the time you were empty. You were empty for 31 years. So you didn't see hope, you didn't have hope, you didn't find joy in things. And then as you slowly started to fill and fill, all of a sudden that joy started like coming back. You started kind of coming back.
And I started to align to nature, to the natural forces and the energy of the trees and just filled with nature. And I really started coming back into what I would call the oneness, the God consciousness state, So it was a profound transformation and transmutation of being filled with God, the light of God, or that's what I called it.
Did you explain this did you have a hard time explaining what this was, or
I didn't even try and explain it to another human being. I didn't have a great trust for human beings, as you can imagine. And my son was very innocent and pure. And, my marriage broke up because I transformed. My husband married this kind of depressed person, and I stopped being that person. So that marriage crumbled, which is understandable. He needed someone different to me. My transformed state.
Oh my gosh. So I guess I don't understand. So you have a wife who's not really vibrant and full and happy, but that's what you want. Like, why would he want that and not who you became?
Because he married and needed to be with someone like I was. That was what he felt good with.
In contrast, to be with someone happy and full of life
And
might
empath. and
might
having power.
that you are powerful now as this woman. You're not here to be dominated. You're not here subservient and relying on him. You are. So you divorced him. You
I
divorced.
didn't. We separated. And then I got a very strong message that I needed to leave Australia, to go to America, take one suitcase, sell everything, leave my children. And I always committed to listen to that voice. I didn't know anyone in America. I didn't know where I was to go, what I was to do. But I was told to book my ticket to San Francisco, and I did that. And before I left, I got the magazine with seminars in California, because I had to have somewhere to go from the airport. And I booked into a seminar that was in Mount Shasta, which I thought was a suburb of San Francisco. And when I booked, he said, I think I better meet you at the airport and you can stay with me the first night. So I got off the plane and she drove me directly up to Mount Shasta. And that's where I lived for the first year of my life in America. And my life transformed. I was just doing, just working with energy and working with people and running workshops and in Mount Shasta. It was fantastic. But then, it was close to a year after that I was out in nature, and I turned into a meadow, and there was this huge Pleiadian spaceship. With the Pleiadians coming from the spaceship. And of course, I didn't believe in aliens or spaceships at that time. I would have run.
How did you know it was a spaceship? How did you know they were like, did you just kind of stall, like look and stiff? Like, how did you behave? Like, I'm just trying to think what I would do if I saw something that didn't look like anything I would do. Like, how do you behave when that is there? You didn't know. Go ahead.
The whole boat was filled with the ship. It was a huge ship. And I would have run, but the Pleiadians took me, they telepathically grabbed me and reminded me that I was a Pleiadian being and they were my family. And I became the Pleiadian. It came right into me, that Pleiadian consciousness, my Pleiadian consciousness. And so I was looking at Christine and remembering my pre-agreement, my life with my Pleiadian family, the work I had to do here, my mission to act as a bridge between humanity and the Pleiadians in this lifetime. And as I just don't remember getting home that day. I just found myself lying in bed with my Pleiadian light, this light, brilliant, so intense coming in, and my Pleiadian family all around me. And I was there for 2 months in that bed.
So, were you able to see, you didn't see them as concrete, physical, how did you see them?
They're humanoid in form. They vibrate because they're from a fifth, sixth dimension of consciousness. They're living in incarnation. They're not in spirit form, but they're a vibrating mass. They're in a humanoid form. So yes, I could see their form. And so, their energy and they just work through telepathic communion. And of course, my telepathic communion center was just activated, re-switched on completely to interact with them.
Wow. So does that mean you were claircognizant, clairvoyant, clairsentient? Like, were all these senses on, or were certain, like, did you
just switch on, automatically switched on, automatically, because my Pleiadian aspect came fully in.
Right in.
Everything was switched on automatically. And then the 2 months was me digesting and integrating that energy. Yep. But it was a thing. It wasn't something I was comfortable with. I didn't want to be Pleiadian. I didn't want to have this Pleiadian mission, and I certainly just wanted to be with God's light. And it was about 6 weeks into my transmutation process that one day 2 angels descended around me, and they said, "You are part of the God consciousness state. The Pleiadians are part of the God consciousness state." And I began to understand and accept my mission and the truth of who I was. It's a truth. I was a Pleiadian being, and it was at that time it was destined to come into this physical body for me to take my higher self. It's part of my higher self-consciousness, my Pleiadian aspect, and for it to enter fully into this body so I could work with humanity in a very different way for the transmutation of Earth and humanity.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Your Pleiadian aspect, God consciousness, Pleiadian aspect, it's all. Do you have other aspects of you as well as Pleiadian?
I have many. Well, as a higher self makeup, we all exist in alternate reality spaces, higher functioning spaces, and I interact with all of those aspects of myself. And I enter the alternate reality spaces. I mean, I'm multiplexing all the time. It enables me to be in those places simultaneously to being here. That's how I operate. It also helps me operate and work with, 1,000 people or 2,000 people at once in an audience. I have the potential to work with people individually, collectively, but differently with each person at the same time. So it's part of my natural multiplexing abilities. It's part of my multidimensional toolbox, if you like.
So is each person's, as each person starts moving towards their higher self, God consciousness, it looks different for everybody? Is that a fair statement to say?
We all have a divine aspect and a unique collective energy of a higher self makeup. But each one of us has a family of origin off planet. None of us originated here from planet Earth. And that our family of, our star family is here to support us in our transition, and our star aspect, that star being that we are, like my Pleiadian aspect, is part of your higher self makeup. So part of my role is to introduce people to their family of origin off planet, to their family of light. So the family of light are here to support each one of us as we call them forward. We have to call them forward because we have free will. They can't just enter. Yeah. They can't interfere with us unless we call them forward and activate these pre-agreements that we've all made, whether we remember them or not. We've all made pre-agreements at this juncture, especially on the earth plane right now. Those pre-agreements are key to supporting us to accelerate our awakening process and to become more self-empowered. And the Pleiadians bring the message of clarity, which creates self-empowerment. Yes. And part of that self-empowerment, which I learned very quickly with my Pleiadian aspect, is the honoring and learning love and compassion and patience with my human self, my human part. Because we came here to have the human experience. We also came here to fully awaken in our sacred natures and embody that sacred nature in this physical body. Because on 11/11/11, we all received our crystalline structure. And on 12/12/12, that crystalline structure was switched on. So we're carrying the makeup, the framework within us that enables us to fully embody our sacred light, our higher self in this physical body, to be fully awakened in this lifetime, and also to have the human experience. That is the mission, and the Pleiadians say we'll all be very successful in obtaining that in this lifetime.
Wow. Wow. So tell me a little bit about awakening symptoms. Somebody that comes, I'm feeling a lot. My life is a little bit of a mess. How do I know that I am awakening? Does it shows up different for everybody? What have you seen in your experience? Does it have to be as drastic as what happened to you? That's pretty.
No, that was, remember, that was 26 years ago, nearly 30 years ago that
Right.
happened. And that was when the structures on the planet were very different energetically. The whole planet now is energetically structured to make it very easy for the transition. The veils are very thin. In those days, the illusion was like a solid iron grid held. It's now liquid, fluid.
Right.
So the transition is very different. I had to do that. That was my experience. That's what I needed to do. That's what I pre-agreed to have an experience of. Not now. Now it's very fluid, very simple. Simple is the word. It is not complicated. That sacred nature of everyone, your sacred nature is fully intact just beyond the veil. There's nothing in your human makeup you have to change or transform or try and make it perfect in order to align to your sacred nature. We have to remember we're meant to have an imperfect human state. It doesn't have to be. That was one of the greatest lies holding our illusion. In order to become enlightened, you had to be perfect. And we'd strive to be good, to do it right, not to be enraged or hateful. And guess what? We would just fall down. We would constantly come back to our imperfect state. The Pleiadians say in order to be enlightened, we have to accept our imperfection. That means hold ourselves with love, compassion, and patience for our imperfection, for our idiosyncrasies. Learn to love our imperfection, love our humanity. That self-love, that self-acceptance is self-love. That's all we're asked to do. So we can let go of trying and struggle and trying to get it right. There's nothing to get right. There's only making choices in order to have the human experience, to learn more about
To
our
be
own human.
to be curious, to look at it, but not to shame, not to
Not to be afraid, not
not
to be afraid of what we're going to find. You see, the feelings we have don't define us. They're just a human experience of a feeling. It doesn't define us. It's not who we are. We're that sacred being. That is who we are. So that's a really key piece. And gosh, doesn't it take a load off? And can you really just stop trying to get it right? Trying to do it perfectly? Stop trying to be loved?
trying to be a lovable human being, like
Yeah.
trying to have it all. What is success? I want success. It's
How tedious is that? And trying to please and get it right and do it right, and the need to be right. All these things keep us trapped. And as we choose to let go, to just breathe and let go, then we self-liberate. And that's our journey, is the self-liberation of our humanity while we realign to the sacred aspect of our consciousness, of our light, of our God consciousness state. And the ego mind will always have an opinion. It will always put us down. That misperception of the ego mind. It does not understand truth. And it will never, never, never accept your multidimensionality. It cannot go there. It cannot connect to that sacred part of yourself.
so say that again. Your ego self, your ego mind will never, ever, ever accept your
Yeah,
multidimensionality.
it can't.
It
And
doesn't
it's not needed.
it doesn't understand.
It's not here to run your life. It's here to make shopping lists, help you organize your third dimensional life, but it is not here to make life-changing decisions. Your heart is your guiding light, your guiding compass home. The heart is your multidimensional tool. Your heart, the veil of your heart, is where you connect to your sacred nature. That's where you're a multidimensional being, having a human experience. And it's about letting go and choosing your heart as your compass, your guiding light, to align to the clarity and understanding of your existence. And it's not about doing it perfectly. It's about having a human experience of going into maybe fear or struggle or drama. You can allow yourself that. If you still need the experience of suffering or a human drama for a moment, that's okay. And then guess what? You come back into your heart and come back into the truth. It's not one or the other. It's about allowing the human moments of vulnerability, of idiosyncrasies, and learning about your humanity and being compassionate.
You're multifaceted. You're multifaceted in who you are, what shows up, what's being worked out. Like, are you still consider yourself evolving and shifting and changing and healing?
Always.
So it doesn't stop. It continues.
But it changes because the drama's not there. You don't stay in the drama. You witness it, and you witness it in others, but you witness life and go, okay, well, this is interesting. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah. Or if I do have a human reaction of fear, to me, that's excitement. It means, oh, what is it inside of me that's coming up that I don't know about myself right now? What part of my humanity do I need to feel? What part of my humanity do I need to hold with love? And that's exciting to discover one more part of my vulnerability as a human being. And this love and light is the worst possible scenario. Oh, I want to be love and light as a human being. So loving and understanding. That's not being human. You know what? We have hatred, anger, rage. We're allowed our shadow sides. And when you suppress it, you suppress the joy as well. Yes. It's putting on a facade of what you think you should be instead of allowing yourself just to be human and then allowing others to be that way too. Letting everyone have their experience and you have your experience in the moment. We've come here to play out things, experiences with each other. We've all made pre-agreements. I played my role out fully in my marriage. My husband played out his role fully in the marriage so we could have our experience. My parents gave me to the cult so I could have my experience.
Oh my God, I just want to hug you.
And they suffered not any less than me, differently, yes. Imagine playing that role as the perpetrator. That's not easy. And the emotion is the importance of that truth. You know, it's important of understanding the perpetrator's role. Someone has to play that.
Was there
for the
purpose behind that? Do you understand the purpose behind?
Yes, I do understand the greater purpose because I had that experience in that satanic cult. And I moved through and broke all the codes and all the programming of the satanic cult on this earth plane so that it allows others who have had that experience to break through and move through the programming themselves.
It's like you're connected to God consciousness, which is connected to all the other souls who are going through that very similar experience. And in some way, that information comes down and seeps into what they are able to do as well.
Breaks the hold of the satanic energy on the earth plane. It
Okay.
dissolves it on a level so that others can resurrect themselves from that experience, because the programming is very strong. And so that has been weakened. That hold on the earth plane has been weakened. That grid that was set in place is no longer the strong grid that it was. That's the bigger picture. And then, of course, I had my personal experience. And that's allowed me to work with hundreds of people, thousands probably across the planet, who have also been in cult ritual abuse, and to move out of that framework. Because the framework is embedded in you. The programming gets embedded in the cells. So that cellular programming can be lifted out.
Yeah.
And having that experience has enabled me to work with anyone on the planet that needs, whether it's sexual abuse, which is so much of that on the, people have had those experiences, the physical abuse, emotional abuse, all of those abuses. I can hold a platform very steadily and support others in releasing that out of them for their own self-liberation, for their self-resurrection. And that's what we are to do. As Jesus Christ said, and I thought he was aligned to the church, but he came to me and he said, when are you going to resurrect yourself? You've come here to take yourself off the cross. You've put yourself on a cross. You're still holding. And this was way early after my awakening. He said, you've put yourself on a cross. You're holding yourself accountable for everything that happened to you in the cult. And I did. I realized I did. As a small child, the feeling of helplessness is such a terrible feeling that taking responsibility for being part of that was easier than feeling the helplessness.
Yeah, I'm being punished because I deserve this in some way.
So I took that on, and then I was able to resurrect myself. But Jesus Christ taught me so much about self-love and our self-resurrection process in this lifetime, that we've all come here to self-resurrect. And each one of us has put ourselves up on a cross in some way, and we're the only ones who can take ourselves down. And this is the self-resurrection process. It is part of our mission. And to really hold our humanity with that love and compassion is everything. So that was a very profound meeting with him. And he spent hours sitting and talking with me on the Sea of Galilee, because I was doing a lot of work in Israel with brain-injured children at that time. And, he talked about my mission, my ministry, he called it. And, that love, he has been beside me, walking beside me in this journey, really assisting me and assisting many others in their own self-resurrection process.
I love it. I do love it. I think you're doing amazing work. Such an honor to talk to you, hear what this is. It takes a lot to, I don't know, it takes a lot of courage, I would say. It takes a, from someone who was a shell of a person that you say you were, you absolutely shifted 360 into someone who is not you're facing whatever fears you had, like you're well spoken, you're able to be vulnerable, so it sounds like a completely different person from where you were.
Well, I'm not afraid of myself and my humanity. And I think we've been taught that that we're afraid of what we'll find inside ourselves. But I've certainly resurrected that part of myself and brought a lot of love and self-acceptance to myself. And I think that's a really important piece. And I had the advantage of having that illness, because when you're dying, guess what? It's a real advantage, because you've got nothing to lose, everything to gain. You're just going from death to life. And every day, that's really my commitment, is bringing myself more and more into that self-resurrection process and being alive, you know. And to me, that is a tremendous advantage. I wouldn't want to relive anything I've lived in my past, but it is a tremendous advantage. And as I said to you earlier, I think you can't measure suffering. I haven't suffered any more than anyone else or any less than anyone else. Suffering cannot be measured. We all suffer on one level or another. And the suffering is part of, we get a choice to in that really depth of the suffering, in the depth of the pain, we can reach for something more of ourselves and, you know, bring an end to the internal suffering of ourselves. It's not about we have to do it for anyone else. It's about doing it for ourselves.
So the only one suffering is us. However we paint that picture, we are sitting in that chair, and what are we going to do with this situation in front of us? What, you know,
suffering like this because it almost makes them feel righteous, or, you know, because they can't let go. They feel they're a victim, and we're never a victim. We have co-created our experiences in order to learn, and we've fully participated in our role. So you can't say I was betrayed. Well, in theory you were, but you had that other person had to play the role as the betrayer so that you could feel the betrayal and deal with the emotion and self-resurrect. You've still got feelings of betrayal inside of you. So the betrayal helps to bring that out of you and allow that self-resurrection to take place.
So would you say when there are situations that people are hurt or they're in a position where they're the villain and they're doing that, was that agreement for benefit? Does it benefit everybody there to play that role, like to play the roles they're playing?
Being the perpetrator is a painful experience.
Yeah.
And it's a teaching experience, a learning experience that person needed to have in this lifetime in order to ultimately transform on another level within their humanity.
Oh.
Have a deep understanding of what that is like to be the perpetrator. It's painful. And in life, someone has to volunteer to be that, to play that role, so someone can have an experience of being perpetrated on. There's always the balance.
Wow.
Always the balance.
So even the person that is the perpetrator, should you look at it as they were victims of their own and of their own lack of consciousness? Like they did all this bad in the world because they were in pain. They did all this bad, but do you say they just didn't wake up in time? Or was that their role to be that?
It was their role to do that. Like someone had to be Hitler. Someone had to be Hitler. Someone had to play that role.
So Hitler wasn't taken over by some darkness that took him and did all this bad. Like that whole situation was planned.
It was all planned. Look at the ripple effect of all the people that were affected, all the Jews. It's still going on. Rippling down families. All the way down.
Way, but not in a positive way. But that's not exactly why we came here.
Negative or positive, it's just an experience in the moment. Like there's no such thing as death. We just take our step off planet and move on. Death isn't real either. So all those people, yes, they suffered. The suffering, they had that experience, but they signed on to have that human experience for that moment. Same like wherever we are in the planet now. There's the people in Syria, people in the war-torn Ukraine. They're having an experience. They're needing to play out the last bits of this human experience in this way.
I know. I do understand that. It's just a hard recipe to.
It's a hard concept for the ego mind to accept its truth.
Yeah.
And if you accept that truth, then you can't stay in the betrayal, the suffering. You can't stay in that victim role on any level. You take responsibility for your role that you played in that.
Yeah, it's the only answer. It's the only answer to moving forward is by taking responsibility for what you did.
That's right.
Yeah. But some people will never take responsibility for what they did.
You're allowed to stay victims for the rest of their life. There's nothing wrong in that. If you want to stay in that victim feeling until you die, that's okay. That's why everyone can do whatever they want to do. This isn't a convergence. It's just if you choose to stay there, that's okay too. And you've got to be honest with yourself. Maybe you're not ready to let go of your anger of being betrayed. Don't pretend, oh, okay, I played my part, so I let go of that betrayal and it's still inside of you. Be authentic with yourself. Okay, I hear that truth, but I'm still hanging on to that betrayal. I can't let it go yet. And you breathe it. And you breathe into the betrayal, to that part of your human self that is so hurt. You hold that part or so angry, and you breathe that anger. You work it. You commit to yourself in that moment with that feeling. That's enough. With doing that, you break a cycle within yourself of holding on. You bring the gift of a self-resurrection for yourself, even if it's for one moment in time that you can do that. Every cell in your body transforms in that one moment. Don't look for doing it perfectly. Do it, looking at it, doing it for one moment. Just one moment. And that's enough. You're enough like that. Like right now, there'd be people say, okay, I'm going to change things. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this. Failure, ego mind, failure. You can't do it perfectly. You'll have moments.
Yeah.
And that's enough. You're enough just as you are in that one moment.
Stop the struggle, stop the striving, let it be, let yourself be enough that you're fine, you're safe, everything is good. It's all good.
Okay.
Okay.
There's no guilt or shame to be felt. You've made the perfect decision in the moment. There's no such thing as a wrong decision. You've just had a learning experience.
Yep.
And so you can't have shame or guilt or regret. You may be feeling those things, but they're not authentic. They're just perpetrated by the ego mind. And right now you just might feel really angry at what I'm saying. So feel the anger. Breathe, feel the anger, suggesting that, you created this stuff to happen to you. Breathe it. Be outraged. Feel the outrage. That's okay too. That's the whole thing. There's no wrong or right way of doing anything or being. Just accept where you are in this moment of time. Be authentic with yourself. That's enough. And you don't owe anything to anybody else.
No, I agree. That is a perfect message to bring our conversation to an end. I am so thankful that you were here with me today.
Michelle, it's been so delightful to spend time with you. And I want to just say one phrase the Pleiadians say, which it has always been very, very important for me, is you are who you've been waiting for.
Perfect. All right,
So,
everyone. If you want to learn more about Christine, find out to visit her at christinedayonline.com. And I will see you guys around, and have a great day.